Hey, what's going on? My name is Sky, like the big blue sky, and today I'm going to show you probably our most advanced local business prospecting strategy. So if you've been following any of my YouTube videos for any amount of time now, you know that I use Clay a lot. It's like my favorite sales tool, but we also use D7 Lead Finder for a lot of local business lists. And D7 Lead Finder can be a great database, but the problem that you run into with it is that it gives you a lot of dirty data. Even if you pick certain categories, like I want to go after HVAC or martial arts or med spas, if you pick that specific category, it still gives you businesses and other categories. It gives you phony emails. It doesn't give you the first name for the prospects or the companies that you want to prospect into. So there's a lot of like data work required in order to make the data usable. And you'll see a lot of people talk about this on YouTube where they're like, D7 Lead Finder sucks. It doesn't give you the data that you need. And you know, their frustrations are warranted, but I'm going to show you today. And you know, we've been working on and iterating on this process quite a bit. But what I'm going to show you today is where we're at now with how to, you know, manipulate and enrich D7 Lead Finder data, but in a like pretty much completely automated way, so how you can take it from the database directly, put it into an automated workflow like this, and it will go all the way from categorizing the data, validating the emails, finding the first names of the prospects, finding the correct company name, finding better emails if there are ones, all the way to writing the full prospecting emails for you in literally just a click of a button. So I'm really excited to show you this today. And I got to give credit where credit's due. My business partner, Caroline, she is the one who poured her heart and soul into building a lot of this process. So I definitely have her to thank for a bulk majority of this work. And if you haven't checked her out already, I would go to LinkedIn. You can check out her company. You can connect with Caroline as well. If you have questions about how to apply this to your business or your prospecting situation in specific, you can hit her up or you can hit me up, and we're more than happy to help you troubleshoot or implement anything like this. But without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, and for context, before we can really dive into any of the nitty gritty specifics here, I need to give you a little bit of like a lay of the land here, because we are going to be combining a couple different tables. So we've got this main Clay table here that you can see. It's from martial arts, it's from D7 Lead Finder, and it's got a bunch of data in it. And then we've got a bunch of different rows. All these rows are connected together and dependent on one another. So if a prospect doesn't fit the approved category, or if their email isn't valid, then they don't proceed through to the next stage. We've already run like 90% of this, so it looks like obviously all the emails are valid. This is not normally the case. A lot of the invalid emails have been filtered out. But the point is, there's a lot of different steps here that are all conditional and based on each other. But then in addition to that, we are integrating other sheets into this at the same time. So it doesn't all happen in one sheet. You need to build some other things out in the back end in order for something like this to work. More specifically, we need an approved category sheet to reference. So when you pull a list from D7 Lead Finder, it will have all of these different categories in it. So let's say I wanted to go after martial arts. It gives me more specific subcategories for martial arts, like jiu-jitsu, fencing, judo, karate, all these subcategories. But then it also gives you stuff that doesn't fit. So maybe if I was doing martial arts, it might give me stuff like an au pair or a tutoring school. It's like clearly not martial arts. And so you'll have to go through your first like D7 Lead Finder list that you pull and take a look at what are all these categories. So I'd put it into a sheet, sort it from A to Z, look through all the categories, find the ones that actually fit your prospecting use case, put them into their own separate sheet. You can do this outside of Clay as well, and you can just like match back in spreadsheets. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to show you how to do this in Clay. So you'll need to take all those approved categories, put them into a sheet here. But then additionally, and I can't show you this on the screen, you need a suppression list. So you don't run the same completions on the same people for the same campaigns over and over again, or you don't prospect people that you already have in your database. I can't show you this here because I can't show their emails, but basically it looks exactly like this, except at the top it would say emails, and it will have every other email listed for every single other prospect that we've pulled from D7 Lead Finder. So having an approved category sheet like this in a suppression list sheet that looks very similar to this, but it's just full of all the other emails that you use. It's really easy. You just upload it into Clay. Having those two tables first is really important because we're actually going to connect this sheet back into it and have it reference it as we go. So, okay, now that we've got the baseline, let's actually jump into this workflow. So the first thing we're going to do is a record lookup. And basically what that means is we're going to look at the categories that were provided by D7 Lead Finder for each contact. And we're going to ask Clay to tell us, does this category for this contact match with the approved categories that I have in this sheet here? So as you can see in the approved categories, we are referencing back to this table. We are telling it to look at this column here, the category column, and we want them to be an exact match. And so it's going to tell us, did it fit our approved categories or not? And it's gonna filter your list down quite a bit. From there, we have another column here with a checkbox that we can refer back to that indicates that this contact does indeed fit our approved categories. From there, now that we've got all of the contacts that fit our approved categories, I want to make sure that they're not on my master suppression list of emails that I have already enriched and prospected. So this next step here is again a record lookup, exactly like this one, but instead we're going to be looking to match the email that D7 Lead Finder provided us, I can't show you it here, to the email that's in our master suppression list. So as you can see, this is another record lookup step, and it's searching in our master suppression list that also exists within Clay. It's matching back to the email that D7 Lead Finder provided us, and it's matching to the email that's in the sheet. And then finally, it's conditional based on the approved category. So if a company doesn't even fit our approved category, we're not even going to look if it's on our master suppression list because it doesn't really matter. We're not going to prospect them anyways. If it's found in the suppression list, it's going to check this box here and it's going to be removed from the table. And then from there, if you think about it, what we've got now is we've got all of our emails that fit our approved category. They're not on our suppression list, but now the next step is we want to make sure that any email that we're working with is valid, because once we do this, we're going to go through a lot of other steps to use AI, scrape the website, write emails to these prospects, and basically all of the other steps that we've done here. So this record lookup, it's free in Clay. This record lookup, it's free in Clay. A lot of the other steps like scraping the website, using AI, it costs me money or it costs me credits. And so I'm trying to be as efficient as possible with my use of Clay credits here. And so I don't want to scrape the website or feed information into AI about a business that has an invalid email. So this very next step we're going to do here, we are integrated with Never Bounce in our Clay table. We're now going to take all of these emails that are not on our suppression list and they fit our approved categories, and we're going to run them through Never Bounce. And then again here, if it is valid, it's going to check this box. If it doesn't check the box, it's going to be removed from this view and taken out of our table. All right, so now that we've got all the emails that are valid that we're going to work with, this next step here, we are going to scrape the website. And you can think about this like we are just gathering information. And the purpose here is that we're going to take this scraped website text and we're going to feed it into OpenAI to do what a virtual assistant otherwise would have been doing for us before. Or a lot of other teams, what they do is they take these D7 Lead Finder lists, they give them to a team of virtual assistants. The virtual assistants go from website to website to website to website. They try to find the business owner's first name. They try to make sure that the company is actually legit. A lot of times these companies don't have working websites anymore. You try to find a cleaner company name that you could use because D7 Lead Finder gives you really messy company names. Or if the company is even in English, a lot of times it'll give you company websites that don't fit, or they're in another country and they wouldn't fit your prospecting campaign. And that's a really time-consuming process that can be expensive if you're paying a team to do that for you. But now what we're able to do here is we can just essentially automate the same thing by scraping all this website text, feeding it into OpenAI. And the key here is that when we feed this into OpenAI, we want it to give us a completion that's in a very structured format, and you'll see why in a second. And so this first step here, all we're doing is scraping the website. Let me show you just to kind of give you, this is a really simple step. So we're just feeding the website in here. We are running it. It's got a conditional format. So it's only going to run if the email found is valid, right? So we're trying to save credits. This one actually costs money. And then from there, now we are using OpenAI to give us all of this data in a more structured and easy to use format. So let me show you what I mean. So, okay, this is our like data research step. And what we were doing is we were feeding the website body text that we scraped into OpenAI, and we are giving it some specific instructions. So let's take a look at this prompt. Data researcher task, you're gonna be given body text from a website, and you're gonna extract the business name, the owner's first name if found, the email if found, the phone number if found. For the business owner's name, only output the first name. Here's the body text. If the email is found, check and see if it matches to the email that D7 Lead Finder provided. If the phone number is available, check and see if it matches to the phone number that D7 Lead Finder provided. Based off the body text, check if the company related is a martial arts gym, right? Because remember, even sometimes when it's categorized as a martial arts gym by D7 Lead Finder, it still might not be right. But now we can feed that website text in and have AI help us verify that and get rid of all of the ones that otherwise would have made it into our campaigns, or we would have had to use a VA to validate. Also check to see if the body text indicates that there's an error within the website. So I'll show you an example of that in a little bit. Make sure that the website is in English and then output it in this specific format. And so this part is the crux to the equation, is getting it to output in this specific format. And you'll see why I say this in a second. And just for like a little bit more context here, it seems like a lot that we're asking the AI to do, but it's actually really capable of doing this. And as we've been using this, we found that it's remarkably accurate when asked to do this task. And doing this it's some of the small hinges that swings a big door for you in terms of like the accuracy and the effectiveness of your campaign. Because let's say, for example, D7 Lead Finder provides us with an email. We scrape the website and the website provides us with a different email. And when we compare them, a lot of times the email that's from the website is better than the one that D7 Lead Finder provided us. And so we can now choose to swap those out. So I'll show you some examples, but this is a really cool step. So we run this prompt, we give it some examples down here just so it kind of knows like, hey, this is the format that we would put it in. Here are some examples of how to do this, the body text and the format. We go ahead and we run that. So we map the completions to the table. And the reason why it was so important for us to have it in a structured format is because now we're going to use that format to then map each of the individual subcomponents to the table in their own rows. So as you can see here, the business name is Supreme Martial Arts, and what we've got here is just Supreme Martial Arts. So what we're doing is we're using a formula and we're telling it in between business name colon and business owner, give me the text that's in between those two. So let me show you. In between business name colon and business owner, give me the text that exists in between those. What text exists in between those? The company name. And now we can repeat that for all of these different subcomponent pieces here. So give me what exists between business owner colon and business email. It's the business owner's name. So we can use those formulas to match each of these individual pieces to the table into their own specific rows or columns. And as you can see here, we run a formula to do that for all of the different subcomponent pieces that we had the AI do research on for us. And now it's very nicely organized into their own separate columns that we can now manipulate further, or we can compare to the data that D7 Lead Finder provided us. So now that we have our data all separated out like this is where some of the more manual steps come in to check and verify pieces that don't fit our standard or don't fit certain criteria that we're looking for. So from here, as you can see, this is the default table. And then we've got a couple other tables with filters built into it where we will have the team now go in to manually check. So now if you think about it, if you have virtual assistants helping you to build these lists from D7 Lead Finder, you went from having to have your VA team go through and check literally every single row or contact to now they can only check the ones that don't fit very specific criteria. And so the first one we're going to look at is this manual check. And we're looking at whether or not the company is actually a martial arts company, whether or not the website provided us with an error, or if the website is in English. So, okay, now that we're in here, let's go ahead and scroll on over. And as you can see, martial arts, website error, English. So let's take a look at some of these examples, if these are martial arts companies and whether or not this is doing a good job. Renegade Ballistics. this is not a martial arts company. It's a firearms training company. Maybe you want to keep that in your campaigns, but it actually doesn't fit the criteria that we set. Website error. Boom, this is not a working website. We would not want to send emails to these folks. I'm glad they were taken out. So unfortunately, we don't have any that aren't in English for me to show you, but I think you get the point here. This is a really useful step, and now instead of my team having to go through 5,000 emails just for this step, they only need to go through 14. Pretty awesome. All right, so now the next view that I'm going to look at is the approved without first names. And basically, these are contacts or companies where they fit our approved categories that we set, but they don't have first names that we were able to find on the website. And if you've ever used D7 Lead Finder before, what you've seen is that sometimes it gives you like info at, sales at, support at emails, but then it also gives you the actual prospect's email, but it doesn't give you their first name. So you wouldn't know unless you used AI to help you sort that out, or unless you manually looked through here. So, okay, let's take a look through here for an example. So, okay, what we've got here is Eric at company domain here. And so now if I take a look, I'm like, oh, I actually don't have their first name, but the email that we have has their first name. So I don't want to email them if possible and be like, hey team, hey, or just not have their first name. If I can, now I can go ahead and I can add their first name into the table, or your virtual assistant can add their first name into the table. So you've got this kind of missing piece of personalization that you otherwise wouldn't have had. Okay, that one's pretty simple. Now we've only got 69 to go through here, and this is a really fast step to check. The next one I'm going to go to is the email not exact match. And so if you remember back to when we were gathering this data where we scraped the website and we fed it into OpenAI to consolidate this information in a very specific format, what we asked it to do was compare the email provided by D7 Lead Finder to the email that we scraped from the site, and then tell us yes or no, is that an exact match? And so our team is now going to go in and compare. So unfortunately, I can't show you these emails in a very specific example, but basically we're just going through and having our team go through. There's only 19 of these to take a look at. Why aren't these an exact match, and which one would be a better one to use? So some of these, you can't see it, but some of these are like at Gmail in one of the rows, and then they have an at company name with their URL in the one that we scraped from the website. And so I would rather email the email that they have listed on their website instead of a random Gmail that D7 Lead Finder provided me. And so our team can go through here knowing what the criteria is and take the email from the website and replace the email that D7 Lead Finder provided us so that we've got higher quality contact information to go after. All right, next one I'm going to go to is the approved with first names. And so these are the ones that fit our approved criteria, and we've got their first names. And essentially, now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the email that D7 Lead Finder provided us matches with the first names. So let me show you what I mean here. So, okay, if you take a look at this, we went ahead and we scraped the website and we found the business owner's name, Robson, but then we've got an email here provided by D7 Lead Finder that's like Doug at company. And I'm like, all right, well, we don't want to email Doug and call him Robson. That would be a problem. But we also, if Robson's the owner and I'm emailing Doug, who's Doug? I probably don't want to email that guy, or maybe he's not even there anymore. So how do I figure this out? I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go to their website real quick and I'm going to look. And so this is something that your virtual assistant would do. So let's take a look. Let's go to about. Oh, Robson. This is the owner. So, okay, the AI picked that up and it got it right. But let's see if we can find Doug. Doug doesn't even exist on their team. So who is Doug and why do I have his email? I don't know. I'm not going to use it though. Instead, I'm going to use the email that the scrape website action found on their website instead. So Doug was probably a trainer or an employee or somebody that worked there at some point, but he's no longer there anymore. So I definitely don't want to email him, right? So I'm going to replace that, or have the virtual assistants replace that with the email that we scraped from the website. I'm sorry I can't show you these emails, but I hope you understand and you get the point. So, okay, that's pretty much everything. In total, our team could take a list of, couple thousand emails, upload it into this sheet, and now they maybe only got to go through like 100 bad examples. Now that we've reviewed all of these mismatches and all the different criteria that we're looking to correct, the last thing to do is to just write cold emails to these prospects. And for this one in specific, I can show you how it's set up, and I can't show you everything because this is an active campaign for a client. We actually removed their name from the table here just to keep their identity private here. But essentially what we do is we have it write cold emails, and this is for a marketing agency, and it pitches custom ideas to each business. And I want to give credit where credit's due. I did not come up with this campaign idea, but it's been working really well for us. It's a really great play for a marketing agency to use. The first person that I heard this from was Spencer Scott on Twitter. He posted about this like when ChatGPT was really starting to blow up back in March, and it got a whole bunch of engagement. Essentially, one of his buddies was a software development shop, and he figured out a way to have ChatGPT come up with custom software ideas to send in cold emails to these people. Since this guy has posted about this use case and this idea, other people have come out and posted videos about this as well. One good source if you want to check out more on how to run this campaign. Since then, Eric over at Clay has also adopted this strategy and posted good content about it. But what I can show you today is an example of a prompt that we use. And I went ahead and I pulled that out here. And this is basically exactly how you would put this into Clay. And so you've got a spot where you put your prompt. We use the scraped website text. And then below it, you give examples. And so you put scraped website text for another company, and then you give examples of really high quality ideas for whatever your service is. This works best if you've got some type of service that has a creative component to it. And so you give a couple of examples, and then you can run it across all of the columns. So if you want more context on how to come up with good prompts, I recommend checking out one of my previous videos that goes in depth for our framework on how to create prompts. It is the PORT framework. But to just show you exactly how we structure this prompt here, we are giving it the perspective or the identity. So you are a world-class VP of business development for an SEO and paid ads agency. So that is P. Then we go to O. We're giving it the objective. You're doing research on martial arts companies to come up with 3 unique and creative ideas for how they could use your service. And then we give it rules. So the PORT framework, it's PORT. So we have the perspective or the role that the AI is going to take, the objective or the task it's going to complete, the rules, and then the text that you're going to provide it as context. And so for the rest of this, we put the ideas in bullet form where each bullet is no longer than 15 to 20 words. You can really play around with this a lot. What I have found is that depending on the sophistication of the market that you're prospecting into or the actual service that you're pitching, it works better to have longer, more thought out ideas. So I know a lot of the other guidance out there is around much shorter ideas, and I think those totally can work. But what we have found works well for us with a marketing agency is having a bit longer, more fleshed out and specific ideas that it pitches to the prospect. So 15 to 20 words. Make sure your ideas are unique, non-obvious ideas, and they are specific to the business you're reviewing. Make sure you communicate your ideas as if you were speaking directly to the prospect. Make sure you're not pitching them ideas that you can implement, but ideas that they could implement. Here is the input, and then this is where we feed the scraped website text into. From there, we essentially give it examples of what a prompt completion pair looks like, and then we just run this bad boy across all of the approved contacts. We also have it do icebreakers as well, so it's like a personalized line based on the business. But those ones are pretty simple and straightforward to come up with to keep the video consumable and short. I really just want to give you the prompt for the AI ideas. For another example on this, I recommend checking out Eric Nowoslawski's. I'm sorry if you're watching this, man, and I butchered your name. He's got really great content on how to use Clay. He's got really great content on how to do cold email prospecting, and he's got a great video on how specifically to do the AI idea. So I recommend checking that out after this if you want more guidance on how to do that. But other than that, that's all I got for you today. I wish you the best of luck. Hopefully this was useful. If it was, please hit the like and subscribe button below, but I will see you on the next video. Bye.